Hi guys, just before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to ask you a big favor. Assuming you like the content that I'm putting out on this channel, could you please do me a favor and press the subscribe button? It really does help reach more people. And while you're at it, if you could just smash that like button down there, we'd really appreciate it. I just want to get this channel out to as many people as possible, so more and more people are getting exposed to these kinds of stories. And I'll stop talking now and let you get into the episode.
Welcome to another episode of the Chronic Comeback podcast. Today, I am really happy and excited to have on the show Anna Fryxelius.
Yes, you got it.
Yeah, we've been practicing that. We were going to go from Anna from Oslo, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna shirk this responsibility. I'm gonna give it a go. So just before we get into the episode, just to give you some detail on Anna's story. Before the age of 25, Anna experienced autoimmune rheumatoid arthritis, a complex spinal fracture, and a whiplash injury, which affected her terribly day in, day out. The doctors that she was dealing with gave up on her and said that she should settle for disability and chronic pain. But Anna was certain that she could still have a healthy and happy life. After studying and testing different medical theories and modalities, she built a system to put her health in order. Using her own method, she got out of the wheelchair and was able to reclaim her health and her life. Now she is the chief advisor of a Norwegian Patient organization, where she is affecting change on a very grand scale. She's affecting change, affecting the medical system, the one that gave up on her, and to help other people with chronic pain, which I really want to talk about. She's also written a book about her health journey and coaches other people to help them reclaim their lives and their health. So I am super excited to get into this. How are you?
Yay! Wow, you managed my story so well. Thank you, Phil. I'm good.
Good.
You know, it's a long story, so I've had to learn to write it and share it.
Definitely. And just so everyone knows, Anna is a trooper. She's actually tested positive for COVID. So
I'm positive.
Yeah. And she's you somehow you weren't tested. You were saying you weren't tested.
Yeah, my son got it in school a couple of weeks back, and I was really sick. Like, we were quarantining and I was really sick then, but the tests were negative. Yeah. But now afterwards, when I feel great, the test is positive. So it's kind of weird.
So yeah. Did you have to, I don't know if this is outside your story, but I'm just interested. Did you have to quarantine when he was sick? And then now do you have to quarantine again?
Yeah, the thing was, I didn't have to quarantine when he was sick, but since I had symptoms, I did. Yeah, we quarantined the whole family just because we're like, okay, we're all carrying this virus now, so just stay away from people.
Yeah.
And we did, luckily. But yeah, I tested negative. Well, it's weird. I'll just hope, knock on wood, that was that, and I'm done with it.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. As I said, we were saying it's running rampant in the UK at the moment. But anyway, this isn't a COVID podcast.
No.
So if we could go back before the age of 25 and talk a little bit about how your life was like before then. Were you like a healthy person, no injuries, or did you have stuff going on earlier on?
I mean, my mom has always said that I had a lot of accidents, like from baby age, but I remember my youth as being extremely healthy and strong. Like, my hobbies were sailing. I was sailing Viking ships and climbing glaciers in my teenage years.
Wow.
So typical Viking things to do there.
Yeah.
No, and I was really active also with horseback riding and outdoor, just being a lot outdoors, and I was strong. I did have a tendency to have accidents, and that's what my mom reminded me later.
Right.
But very healthy and strong. Yeah.
Sounds like you're probably someone who puts themselves maybe in those situations where you could get injured.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the whole sailing a Viking ship to Istanbul at age 17 was a bit crazy.
So what's the difference between a Viking ship and a normal ship?
Well, I mean, it's an open built wooden boat. Ours was built with oak planks. So basically you sleep outside and it has a square sail, right? Instead of a triangle sail. So
Okay.
you're very dependent on the wind coming from the right direction, because you can only sail the direction the wind is going.
Right.
And we sailed it from Norway to Istanbul through the rivers of Russia. It was very exciting.
Oh my God. And it's
That's a
just
long
cool.
time ago now, but I was healthy and I climbed the mast and I swam with the dolphins, you know, in the Bosporus Strait. And yeah.
And it's just cooler that it's called a Viking ship than a Norwegian.
Yeah.
So you mentioned actually before the call, it was in Bali where all this stuff happened. It had anything happened before then, or could you take us through
The reason I was in Bali was to get well from my rheumatoid arthritis. So this is a warning to you, Phil, because I heard you're going.
Well, just maybe well, look, this is a bad omen.
No, it's not at all. I'll give you the details. So the thing was, my health journey started when I was 17. Quite soon after that, the big trip on the Viking ship. I had several, but I was arm wrestling with sailors in Piraeus, in a Greek port, on one of those trips, and I got tendinitis, which you would think was like, okay, Anna, you're 17 years old, girl, you're hand wrestling Greek sailors, maybe you deserve that tendinitis, right? But the thing was, it didn't go away. And it went sort of from one arm to the other, and all of a sudden my shoulders, both my arms, and of course doing like glacier climbing and sailing and those kinds of things, and I also did ballet. I couldn't do any of those things because my arms just stopped working. Yeah. And then in the beginning, the doctors were like, yeah, this is tendinitis, you have to just wait and see and do this and that. But then it sort of exploded the summer I was 19, so 2 years later, I guess. And it sort of hit all my joints, like feet, hands, hips, knees, everywhere. And that's when I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis.
Wow. And so what, for those who don't know, like what is the feeling like? Like, what is it like?
Yeah, I mean, rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune condition, and it's quite similar to MS.
Right.
Only that in RA, as we call it for short, it's the protective lining of your joints that are affected.
Yeah.
And when those are destroyed, like with inflammation, because they all get inflamed, the joint is actually broken down. That's why you can see like hands that are completely crooked and bent, and people. It was a very disabling disease when I got this, because they couldn't really treat it. And the only treatments they offered was like lots of weird injections with like gold, and they gave me cell poisoning, like what they give to cancer patients. I was 20 then, and they said, okay, here are your cortisone shots, and here's your cell poisoning. You have to take this for the rest of your life. Yeah. And oh, by the way, you know, when your joints become, we can't stop this. So when your joints become broken down, Anna, we are going to open up your joints and replace them with plastic one by one. But you're so lucky, this is what the doctor, because the new wheelchairs with the titanium frame, they're so much easier to roll than the old ones in aluminium.
Oh my God.
This is the doctor message I got.
That's going to put you in a good mood. So like mentally, as a 20-year-old, I'm trying to think of what I was like as a 20-year-old. You don't have a care in the world. Well, most 20-year-olds don't have a care in the world. They're off sailing Viking ships. Exactly. And you got that news. Like, how was that for you mentally?
I've seen this arrow, like this the grief process, right?
Yeah.
That you go into denial.
Yeah.
I went into denial. I was like, fuck this shit. This is not happening. And then I got desperate and I tried everything. Like, because I guess from the start, I was convinced that there was something I could do to change this. I just had that, it was like a core belief, because this disease had sort of come from within my body and changed my body from within. So I was like, I'm sure I can change this from within too. Mm-hmm. There's something I can do with my body, with my diet, with my mindset, whatever, with something inside I can change to reverse this. Yeah. So when they put me on all those, that when they gave me these great news, what I did was I bought a one-way ticket to Indonesia. Because that was, the logical option at that point. I mean, the future they were giving me was so bleak. And they were like, oh yeah, and you're gonna get disability, don't worry about that. I mean, I had big dreams and ambitions, and I want to change the world and do everything that young people do and have a great career in life. So I realized I had to get away from the future. And I mean, they made it very easy for me to be sick. It was like, this is your life with RA. You're going to be disabled. You're going to come here every week and get your shots and take your cell poisoning and be a good girl. And yeah, I didn't.
Can I just ask you, what's your view on like messaging and how important that is, like at that stage, and how much of an impact that can have on someone?
It means everything. It means absolutely everything. And doctors now learn more about it. Like this was in the late 90s. So doctors didn't learn anything about communication, but they do now. So this is getting better.
Yeah.
I mean, some things do get better with time. But then we got to think, I mean, this is a disease that is quite well understood by the medical field. But I see people now with like ME, for example, and also fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
Really debilitating, disabling, painful conditions that can completely put you out of, you can't work and everything. And some people are locked in a room most of the time. And they get this treatment, like there's nothing we can do for you. And no explanation. Yeah. So that's more for why I want to change the healthcare system. But we're in Indonesia. We were in Indonesia because that was only the start of my journey.
Why was it Indonesia, by the way? Like, why did you think I need to go there?
I had a friend who had been there quite a lot, and she was going there to study. So I could sort of just come along with her. And we lived there for a year. I got a job teaching English. I bought a motorcycle. My health was so much better. My arthritis was barely noticeable. So it really did great things for my health. I mean, I was sure that the warm climate was going to help, but also that I needed to get away from that disease focus.
Yeah.
And those two things helped. It might have also helped that I had a really healthy diet there, just rice and vegetables.
Yeah.
And then I was doing fine for 10 months until I was on my way to go home, and I was going to actually travel to Cardiff and study there at university to study English. And then I sold my motorcycle. I got on a bus. The bus crashed and my spine was fractured. Like completely crushed. Poof, crash. Bam, hospital in Indonesia. They carried me in on a plank, and I stayed on a plank in the hospital in Indonesia for 10 days with an open complex spinal fracture.
What is that? That sounds horrible. An open.
Well, I mean, it opened, like it wasn't through my flesh.
Right.
I had flesh wounds other places. But the flesh wounds are easy, but a complex spinal fracture is not. So the lower part of my spine was crushed by the impact this bus had when it jumped over a big concrete block. And I mean, you've probably seen the buses they have down in Bali, Indonesia. They're not good. Like, don't take the buses, or at least choose the buses that look like they have some kind of safety precautions. This was an old one, and I was sitting in the front seat, which was apparently not smart. And I just my spine got crushed. And luckily, I was really strong. Like, I had very strong muscles, and that's apparently what like kept the fracture stable when they transported me to the hospital there. And the hospital was really close. It was kind of unfortunate that all the orthopedics in the whole city of Bandung, which is where I lived, they were on a pilgrimage to Mecca. Bad timing. So I got a plastic surgeon who looked at my back, and he's like, "Oh, you have such beautiful skin." Long story there. So if you think my story is a little bit wild, I can see it in your face, Phil.
No, I kind of like, I don't know whether I'm a bit weird, but like, it's like, I'm almost getting, because I know it's obviously ended well, I almost get enjoyment out of it just because it's just so, I find it difficult to hide my like surprise and just like craziness as to what's going on. But please keep going.
I do actually like telling this as sort of like a fairy tale. Just like, let me tell you a story about the doctors in Indonesia. Yeah. So they were on a pilgrimage and I was stuck on a plank in a hospital bed in Indonesia, in an Adventist hospital in Indonesia, where they did not believe in drugs and drugs being painkillers. So they didn't give me any painkillers. And I had a complex spinal fracture. So it was painful, but it was also quite traumatic, and I think I'll get back to that later, because I had good friends. Like, I had a great support system. The friend I was living with, her dad was a doctor, and he, by some maybe divine intervention, he was going to come to visit once during that year. He came the day after my accident. So I had a Norwegian doctor standing by my bedside saying, okay, she needs this. So there was definitely some, I would call it divine intervention going on there, because they wanted to move me around and they didn't understand the complex spinal fracture, because the plastic surgeon didn't understand this. When they got, like, my friends got an orthopedist from another hospital, and he used the MRI machine they had standing in the basement that nobody knew how to use. And they were like, yeah, her spine is completely crushed. Like, she has to be completely still. So there were 3 or 4 vertebra that were crushed partly and one completely.
And is there because I imagine you could be, what was the kind of message, we talked about messaging before, what was the kind of messaging you were receiving at that point? Because you must have been freaking out, like, someone said my spine is crushed, does that mean I can't walk and whatnot?
Yeah, I guess I was very afraid of becoming paralyzed for life, because I wasn't yet, but right at that point, it was just about surviving. And thankfully, also some great help there. My parents had bought a travel insurance that meant I got transported safely back to Norway, like with a hospital. Like, they paid like 500,000 kroner, which is like 50,000 euro, I guess, to send an ambulance plane to get me safely home to Norway, because I'd paid 100 quid for travel insurance.
Wow. Okay.
My parents did that. Yeah.
I haven't got travel insurance for the last few times I've gone traveling. So
travel insurance.
Oh shit! Right, I'm gonna write that
down. Good coverage travel insurance. So because accidents do happen, and yes, in Asian countries, the hospital. So I was, winding forward. Got back to Norway. I went through 2 major spinal surgeries. Where they opened up and blah, all the stuff that they do. 2 fusion surgeries. That's why my nick online is FusionNet.
Right.
I had the 3rd one later, and that was successful. But the two first spinal fusions were unsuccessful. And then I could still walk, but I was just in extreme pain, and I could not sit. I could lie down or I could walk just a little bit, but I could not sit. And then I was actually out walking, and I was hit by a car and thrown through the air, 10 meters through the air, landed in a hospital with a whiplash injury. So, okay.
Oh my God. And what did that do to your back?
Actually, it didn't do too much to my back. Like, it got worse for a few weeks, but it didn't change anything like dramatically. But I got that, of all the things I have, rheumatoid arthritis, and that was in remission because I changed my diet, by the way. Like, so my RA was in deep remission because I completely changed my diet. So now I was just dealing with the back pain. Mm-hmm. And then I was hit by a car, and then I got whiplash. And you know what? Whiplash is worse than any of the other things, but no doctors believe in it. Like, in the medical world, it does not exist. At least in Norway, they say, like, this is, your bones in your neck aren't fractured, so that means your neck is okay. I'm like, I've never been in pain like this. Like, this is completely disabling pain, because it took out my head, right? I couldn't think. Yeah. And they were like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. You were just hit by a car and sent flying 10 meters through the air. It's probably just in your mind when you have pain in your neck and head.
Yeah.
It's all in your head. Yeah.
Because I read, maybe you've have you read the book called Healing Back Pain?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, by John Sarno. He talks about whiplash in that, and I probably shouldn't have brought that up because I can't remember what it said, but I thought it was really interesting. But let's get back into your story.
Yeah. There are lots of ideas. It was just strange to experience it after what I've been through. And also to experience how different diagnoses are treated differently by the doctors. So that's when they gave up on me. And this is when I actually became disabled. And if you think my story is kind of interesting, this is also the reason why my story was published as a book in Norway. It's only in Norwegian. And it was funded by a free speech organization, because they said Anna's story is so extreme and interesting, but also relevant to society and to medical discourse. So it was published and supported by a free speech organization in 2010. And it's only Norwegian, unfortunately. I need an English literary agent, so, to get it published so more people can read it in English. Maybe you can help me with that.
Don't know many literary agents.
Maybe some people out there know some.
We could just have a Zoom, and I'll just translate it over a Zoom.
Yeah. Let me tell you a story about. But there are lots of meetings with doctors and meetings with the healthcare system in my story, and also this the expectancy, I guess, that society expects you when you have these kinds of diagnoses. It's like, okay, 3 strikes, you're out. We don't expect anything from you anymore. Just, cash your disability check. Here's your nice new wheelchair. Sit in that and eat your pills and be quiet. That's the message I got. And that was, So those were really dark years in my story. I mean, that's the dark point in my life.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so at this point you said that you were able to walk before, then you had the whiplash. And what was it? Do you think it was that then, or do you think the messaging as well of, we talked about messaging, like them giving up on you, that kind of made your everything about yourself give up, and then you were like more disabled, or were you already?
I think it's like chronic pain and trauma increase each other, right? So emotional trauma that I'd been through with the accident and everything, and then another accident, and the feeling of maybe not being safe, put me in a state of constant alert. And then of course the pain that I had, like I've been cut open in my back like many times, and I still have the low like grade of rheumatoid arthritis, which means I get inflammation very easily. So the sum of all that was just intense chronic pain, and that was disabling. And people give wheelchairs a bad rep, and I talk about I got out of the wheelchair, but actually the wheelchair was a tool. The wheelchair, it's kind of ableist to talk about wheelchairs as a bad thing, because the wheelchair was a tool and a great help to get outside when I actually was so weak I couldn't make it to the bathroom and back without lying down on the bathroom floor. That I've heard many people talk about. It's like you're horizontal. You have to go to the bathroom. Maybe you have to eat something. So you have like liquid food. You have some kind of smoothie or something, because you can't actually handle chewing or lifting stuff to your mouth. You're that weak. That's where I was.
God. And what was, so how old? So you, because you were,
I was 25.
25. So it's been going on kind of, your life hadn't been normal for like 5 years.
7, I guess. 5 since I got RA, and all of those things happened. Those 3 things happened in quite rapid succession, and that's. I mean, I still had at some point there, like it turned around when I had a dream. It was like I was traveling to the future, lying on my bed, and lots of painkillers, and maybe it was some kind of painkiller induced dream. But it's like I saw myself in the future. And I was at a party, which of course I couldn't go to at the time. I was at a party talking about what it was like during my darkest days with chronic pain after breaking my back. So it was like I was seeing myself in the future, healthy and happy and active at a party and like no pain, talking about what it was like to be so disabled and have so much pain. So I could sort of see myself, and I really felt what it felt like to be there, to be healthy. It's possible. Like that dream awakened me in a way. It's like, it's possible. I can get well. I know I can get well.
And was that a turning point for you?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just that it sort of planted the idea. And then from there, I mean, I had a spiritual transformation. After that, a complete spiritual, where I really connected with God, the universe, everything, and started meditating, and that led me to do a pilgrimage to Camino, the Camino to Santiago de Compostela.
Okay.
To start on that, which was crazy because I was still, partly in a wheelchair and partly couldn't walk, but I figured I had nothing to lose. So when I met a pilgrim, I met a guy who'd done it, and he was like, yeah, everybody, no, what did he say? He just came back from doing the pilgrimage, and he told me about it, and I was super intrigued, and I was like, I want to do that. And then he told me, well, Anna, there are two kinds of people in the world. One is the kind of people who wants to do the pilgrimage to Santiago, and the other are the people who do it. Yeah.
And you were like, I'm going to be the person that does it.
Yeah. I'm like, no, first, my automatic self-preservation kicked in, and I was, yeah, it's easy for you to say, I've broken my back and I was in a wheelchair just like 2 months ago. And I really got, offended. Yeah. But then he said, well, I met an 80-year-old man, and I met somebody with just one leg, and I met a 6-year-old kid who walked this Camino. It doesn't matter. Like, just try, just go there and start walking and see what happens. Just start walking. And the winter was coming in Norway, and that's always been a rough time for me with my rheumatoid arthritis. So I was like, I have nothing to lose. So again, I bought a one-way ticket, but this time down to Portugal, and I started walking. And I actually managed to complete that trip, 800 kilometers walking by foot. Yes, walking by foot, Phil.
Oh my God. And how long does that take you?
Well, healthy people doing it 1 month. I did it in 2.
Wow.
Oh yeah. That was a huge, like, that. If there's one, I've had many turning points sort of, but that is the turning point where I realized that I could do it.
Yeah. I
can do this.
So it's really interesting to talk about this, just because what I'm going to, not trying to make this about me, but just I've thought about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro for like a very long time, and a very long time. The last couple of years,
you. The mountain is calling you.
Yeah, well, I was like, well, I need to be a certain amount better before I can do that. Like, because right now, like, I couldn't picture being able to do it. But I was like, well, I thought about it. I've done this course recently, and I was like, actually, I'm just going to set myself. I'm going to do it in July, and I'm going to do it no matter how that it's happening. It's happening, and I think I really feel like, because I'm going to Bali and then I'm going to do that, I feel like that's going to be a turning point for me, because I'm going to know that I was able to do that. So yeah, maybe that's my own pilgrimage.
You are going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I can totally see that. That's happening.
Brilliant. Yep. Cool.
It's on.
Doing it. Wow.
Yeah, and it's one step at a time. That's the key. I mean, like, it sounds such a cliche, but it's true. Like, every journey is one step at a time. And after walking, like, after 3 days, I almost gave up because I had so much pain. And somebody turned up, like, okay, it's another crazy point. A pain doctor specialized in chronic pain showed up as a co-pilgrim on my pilgrimage the day I was giving up because of my chronic pain.
Wow.
And he's like, I think I can help you. And that was the first time I ever met a chronic pain specialist.
Were you quite lucky that it was, because there's some chronic pain specialists that maybe wouldn't be that way inclined, right? They'd be just giving you pills, and then there's others that maybe look at maybe a more holistic side. I'm assuming this one was maybe more of the
both. I mean, I know lots of great pain specialists too, and I mean, pain medication has been really important for me in order to live with this. Like, I couldn't have survived without pain medication. There's just been so much pain. But what he taught me, and that was really, it changed my brain, because it's like he almost hypnotized me and said, Anna, it's not dangerous. The pain is not dangerous. And of course, he knew, like, he could explain what happens to your nervous system. Like, your nervous system is actually changed by being in pain for a long time. And this whole fear, pain, sensitivity thing that goes on, like neuroplastic pain, he could explain that. That was way before the doctors in Norway learned anything about it. And I mean, he followed me. We walked together, and he saw me like being strong and healthy. He saw like my healthy aspects and saw that part of me, but also saw and acknowledged my pain. And then he said, you know, it's not dangerous. So when I took that in, it's like, yeah, my back hurts. That's natural. At that point, I think I'd had 3 spinal surgeries. Yeah, but it's not dangerous. And I started, you know, just breathing and thinking differently around my pain. Not necessarily forcing, but maybe more accepting and not being afraid of.
So that's and there's been a couple of people that have been on the podcast that have talked about something called TMS. I don't know. I'm not going to try and remember what that actually means. But it's going back to that Healing Back Pain book, and talks a lot about how, yeah, seeing your pain as it's almost like it's working for you. It's not your enemy, and that, yeah, there's not actually physically something broken, because I think there's a mental side of things that we think we're broken, and then that feeds into the whole pain cycle. Is that similar to what you're saying?
I guess, I mean, of course, my body was broken, and and the rheumatoid arthritis was a constant pressure, but I didn't have to accept that as being my reality. So I haven't done I have developed my own system, but when I touch on and I read from others, I'm like, yeah, this makes sense also in my system. So it's like, we're all doing things sort of maybe from different angles.
Yeah.
And there have been many great books that correspond to my experience that I can take them as reminders. But the Camino, learning that it's not dangerous, and that enabled me to finish the Camino. When I came back from that, I started rebuilding my life, my health. I started rebuilding my healthy life.
And can you just tell us like how you felt physically after that the pilgrimage? Like, were you comparing? Because obviously you must have been tired, but comparing to the beginning of it, like, were you physically feeling better, or is it more of the mental side of things?
I guess I was mentally feeling better, and I was physically stronger, but I had this complete confidence in that my body can do anything, if we're on the same team. If I stop fighting my body, you know, we can do anything together. Like, and of course the spiritual side was a big part of it too. So really, a pilgrimage is a very spiritual experience, and I've, you know, it's changed my understanding of what the human body is. The experiences I've had all through my journey, that, you know, we're more than just a physical body. We're more than a mind and a body, and our emotional aspect, I see that as the soul, but we also have a spiritual aspect, which is connected to something bigger. And if you want to heal, you have to balance those 4 aspects. You can't heal your physical body by just using the brain, or just the body, or just the emotions. Like, you have to balance all of them. And that's what my method is all about then. I call it Hack Your Health, because you can get really fast results if you work in the right order. If you try to change your body, you know, working from the physical side, it takes ages and often doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's what I've been doing for a very long time. And yeah, taking a lot of, I think, you know, and I think a lot of people with chronic health issues go through this. They take a lot of supplements and just think that that's gonna help them. They change their diet and that will just help them. And sometimes
physical therapy or surgeries, and
yeah, but it's because we're always looking for something externally to help. And quite often, if we, again, not sounding cliche and cheesy, but look internally, that is often, if you combine that with the other stuff, it can help. So could you talk us a little bit about, you mentioned like Hack Your Health. Is it you came up with a system kind of there and then, or was it something that kind of happened organically?
That was actually earlier. So I guess the Camino was a result of me using that system.
Okay.
But that was the spiritual transformation I had around that dream when I started meditating, and I felt I could see energy, and I could see the energy in my body. I could almost like travel into my cells, like energetically, and really understand what was going on, and also understand this imbalance that I had. And I understand it's all, you know, quantum field energy. When you're at that state, that you may have experienced, you feel at one with everything. And it's like my body, my physical body is energy, and everything around me is energy, and my mind is energy, and I can alter my body. But it's not as easy as just sort of think happy thoughts or say positive affirmations. So I've really had to work on this to make a system that works. It wasn't like I saw it there, I understood it there, and I tried to implement it, but it took many years to implement it fully.
It sound what you're talking about sounds very similar to Joe Dispenza and the stuff that he
does. But you know, I don't really like Joe Dispenza. Sorry.
Really?
No.
I find a lot of people annoying, but I actually quite like him. But I'm
I haven't met him. I mean, as a person, maybe he's super nice, but yeah, the groups around his message I've read his book, and it's great. You know, it's great, but there's a missing piece there. Okay. There's so much focus on the mind side of things, and we do that in Western society. It's like your mind is all powerful. You know, what you think and what you say becomes your reality. That's kind of the mind body medicine thing. Yeah. But there, we disregard the emotional side, which I feel like in my healing and in my healing system. Is the closest I can get to changing my body fast is by working through mind, spirit, and then emotions. Then I can change my body fast.
Okay. I see. I guess I see them as the same kind of thing, like working on your emotions and working on your mind, but maybe they're not. So what have you done, and what would you suggest for people if they wanted to work on? And when you talk about emotions, are you talking about like past trauma and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, you definitely have to connect with your past trauma, and whether it's inner child work or all kind. There's so many great modalities for working on your emotional whatever issues you may have. And remember, it's not the only key. I definitely believe in like collaborating and having good doctors and working with them when you can. Like for many people, they don't get access to good medical care, but if you can, like good medical team, some doctors around you are great assets, but they don't have the whole truth. The emotional side of things, and of course the mindset part of things, and the spiritual thing, you have to do that yourself. And the medical treatment is not going to work unless you do your part. That's sort of my main message. When it's chronic, I mean, it's great for acute things, but for chronic conditions, you have to do a big part of the job yourself.
Yeah. I actually had someone on the show last week, and they were talking about the minute they started to take control of it themselves and stop waiting for someone else to just come and do the work for them, that was the minute they kind of like reclaimed their power over the situation and was able to. And it sounds like that's exactly kind of, well, it sounds like each stage of your, even when you made a decision to go to Bali and you changed your diet, every time you took control yourself and took responsibility yourself, you actually made a lot of improvement. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Like going to Bali, I made a lot of improvement. Then I came back and the rheumatoid arthritis flared while I was struggling with a newly fractured spine. And the doctor said, there's nothing we can do for you. And what I did then was I read up on dietary changes, and I stopped eating gluten and dairy, and my RA went into deep remission and has not come back.
Wow.
And that's 25 years. So it's friggin' amazing. So every time I've taken responsibility and also acted on my instincts, and done some kind of change that I stick to. You can't just, in the beginning I was panicking and trying like 20 things at once. You can't do that. You have to work systematically. And I had a feeling about gluten and milk, like it really made sense to me from what I'd read, that it was triggering my autoimmune disease. Like the disease was there, and gluten and casein, the milk protein, were triggering it. So I stopped taking those, and my RA was almost cured. I mean, like 90% recovered.
Yeah. Do you feel like because you believe in the universe and believe in the universe, but you're but and you've gone more of a spiritual path. Do you believe now that all of that stuff happened for a reason, because, you know, you got yourself into remission. You know, you would think if the universe was kind to you, it would say, you know, you've been through some shit, you don't need some more shit. But it was like, actually, you kind of need to go through some more stuff to get to where you need to get to. Are you a believer in that kind of thinking?
Yeah, definitely. I think my soul came here for a purpose, and I needed to go through those things to understand, because it was only after the third and like all of these accidents and surgeries that I had that deep inner. It was almost like a near-death experience where I connected to my inner self, and could really understand my body from the inside. And that's I tried to share that with the doctors, and they're like, yeah, you need psychiatric care now, Anna. This is not good. You know, I'm like, no, I don't think I need that. I don't think that's it. I think I can heal myself. And then I just went out and did it, you know, because they're not going to listen to me. They're just going to label me. So I just went out and did it. And as I told you, now I'm back, you know, I'm the boss now. Sorry.
Well, I want to talk about that, but just quickly before, are you, so from the moment you started to do, you know, hack your health, as you say, at what point were you noticeably better, and how are you at a point now, or did you get to a point where you don't really have many symptoms at all on a day-to-day basis, or do you still deal with a level of pain?
I have very few symptoms on a day-to-day basis, but I can have flares, and I think that's the autoimmunity. Like, part of it has changed my immune system for good, and so I have to manage that. Yeah. With diet and exercise and mindset, and I can basically keep it completely. I have a super active life now. I can do sailing again. I have 2 kids, a great husband. We have a wonderful active life, and I work full time. I have a great career, working to help other pain patients, and working to change the medical system in Norway.
And how did you, because this is the first time we've had someone on who's making an impact at that kind of level, which I think is something that we all would love to be able to do, because that's it's a systemic problem, isn't it, with chronic issues. How did you get to be in that position?
Well, I was volunteering in a music festival, actually, in Sweden. That's when I got healthy, back from the Camino. I wrote my book, and it was published with that free speech organization. I learned project management working with a music festival. So I was on disability, but I was allowed to work as a volunteer, and I learned project management. And that meant that I got super effective. Like, the combination of my health issues and learning project management was like, made me super Anna. So I started a blog. I actually got funding from the free speech organization for that too. My book was published. I was writing in lots of newspapers, and I started doing public speaking, where I would sort of, with slight humor and quite a lot of bitterness, I have to say, you know, tell my story of meeting the health. Like, I tell this story in Norwegian health conferences. I got a few breaks because of the books and could do that.
Yeah.
And people listened, and the patient organization came up to me and like, we want to work with you. And they're the Rheumatic Association in Norway. They're huge. It's like one of the biggest patient organizations here. Wow. So they loved my story. And first they hired me like 20% as a project manager to make content for their patients, to empowerment courses. And I did that. Yeah. And they wanted more, and I worked more. And after a few years, I was working 100%. And I gave birth. I mean, I was pregnant twice and had 2 kids, which nobody believed was possible, of course, a few years earlier. Yeah. So then I got into that position, and by using my story, I was asked to participate at higher and higher levels. And now I'm on the board of advisors for the Minister of Health in Norway.
Wow.
As a patient representative. And I also work in lots of medical science projects. Like, user involvement in science is huge. Like, it's going to change everything, because now funding of medical science is linked to actual user involvement. That means patient representation to decide which project should get funding and which shouldn't. It's amazing.
Wow. And do you can you see from some of the responses you get from how you reclaimed your health? Can you see like the old way it used to be, and kind of like the people that were like that, and the attitudes? And is there a lot of resistance to people like you?
Yeah, in Norway there is, and that's why I do want to reach out to people internationally, because I feel they're more like-minded people. I guess because people get angry, they get triggered at me for healing myself and talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
it's not socially acceptable.
I think that's, you say it's Norway. I think that's just everywhere. Maybe in America there's a lot more openness over there, but then
they don't have healthcare, so that's
it's kind of a toss up, really. God, it's amazing that you're doing that, and that must feel the fact that you're able to make a difference at that level must be super fulfilling, to be able to do that. You must feel like you're fighting quite regularly with like a system that's been in place for many years.
Yeah, and it's funny because the doctors both love me and hate me. It's like I teach the pain doctors now. Like they invite me to their conferences to teach the pain doctors what it's like to live with chronic pain. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. But of course the political side is more interesting, and also the medical research side is more interesting, because there we can change we can change medical science with patient empowerment.
Yeah.
And user involvement. So a couple of weeks ago, I was on stage in front of all the scientists and doctors working in the musculoskeletal field, which is my sort of main field, and presenting to them we did this James Lind Alliance. We got funding from the Ministry of Health to do a James Lind Alliance, like user involvement process. And I'm like, so yeah, I know you all think your research is super important, but this is what we want. So, and they were like, they respect me, but they also hate me a little bit.
Yeah.
I just got to put I do Kung Fu training, and I think like, okay, I'm taking out my Kung Fu sword. I'm a chronic pain warrior in that respect. Like I go on stage and I put my like stage face on. I'm like, I'm going to tell you how this is going to be. You better fucking listen.
I sense you get a sick enjoyment out of that.
Oh yeah. Oops. Sorry. I'm not that peaceful or spiritual. I don't know.
Just going back to there'll be a lot of people listening to this who you mentioned your darkest years, and that's why I love your story, because the position you're in now, and you can look back on those times with hindsight. With people who are listening to this right now who can't see a way out and have maybe been told by doctors that this is never going to end for them, and they just need to accept it. What would be your advice to someone who's going through this right now, and their advice to kind of keep going and keep moving forward?
That really resonates with me. So I'm just like connecting.
Yeah.
You can get better. Like this is just a phase. I know it sounds like a cliche, but you have the power to change your health, to change your body, and you can get well. There are healers like doctors and all kinds of people. There's so many helpers who want to help you. Doctors and yeah, they're great too, and coaches and all kinds of helpers who want to help you get well. But you have to start with believing that you can get well. Maybe you can have that dream. Go into the future and see your healthy life. What's it like? What's it feel like to have a healthy life? And don't break free from the idea that you have to fight your disease to get well. Because when you fight your disease, you're making your body into a battleground. So just focus on the healthy, happy life you want to have, and it'll draw you there, and you will attract the right helpers. You'll attract the right method. There's so many modalities. Focus on your goal and you'll attract the right help.
You couldn't have summed that up any better, I don't think. That I'm sure that would resonate with a lot of people. What are the ways in which you've been through so much on this journey that you've been on? Like, what are the ways in which your life is better as a result for what you've been through?
Well, I have an authority now that's like, I'm enough the way I am. Like I'm proud of myself, and also feel confident that I can help others. And it gives me so much meaning. Like my pain, like all those years of pain, have meant that I can help others and also change the system so that lots of people will get better help.
Yeah.
And that's worth it. It's like every time I get to work with one person and see the result in them, I feel like all my pain was worth it.
Yeah. Definitely. Cool. Well, I think that's a really nice point to draw things to a close. But if people wanted to reach out to you and ask you any questions about what you brought up today, or just connect with you in general, how would they best go and do that?
Let's focus on Instagram. Like, I'm on Twitter and Facebook too, but my nicks in those places are Anna TW but FusionNet, Instagram FusionNet.
Okay.
Find me there and I'll talk to as many as I can.
We will add those into the show notes. And when I say we, I mean Brian will do that, because
yay, Brian, thanks.
He's the unsung hero in this podcast. Cool. Look, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I'm going to look up that pilgrimage, because I feel like it's something that would be quite cool to do at some point in the future. But I know I'm going to include that include that in the show notes as well, because I want just in case people want to do that. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. It's been absolutely amazing. And I hope that you test negative for COVID very, very soon.
I hope I get to celebrate Christmas.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you will. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.